So this is a slightly different talk, and as Trevor said, it's a lightning talk. I have a demo in here. So as it's short, I'm using a pre-recorded demo because I don't quite want to tempt the risk of things failing in such a short time period where there's not time to recover. So our plan is to run through some slides fairly quickly, introduce you to some of the new mailing list tools we can use, and then give you a demo of them. So I'm going to jump over these slides fairly quickly because you'll have seen them in my talk earlier. My name's Paul Barker, Principal Engineer at SoundCloud, been involved in Yocto Project for quite a while now. Contact details are up here if you want to follow up on anything. I'm also Paul Barker on the IRC that we've got set up for the conference. So this talk is going to tell you what is public inbox and what is law, also known as law.kernel.org, and it's going to tell you what is B4. What do these words mean? What powers do they give to you? Then I'm going to give a demo, and then I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about patatt attestation if I have time to do that. So first of all, some acknowledgements. I want to thank everyone who's contributed to the Public Inbox project, and I also want to thank Konstantin, who is involved in maintaining infrastructure for the Linux kernel.org community and wrote the B4 and patatt tools that I'll be showing you. So I want to talk about public inbox. Public inbox is a mailing list implementation. So Yocto Project uses groups.io. There are other mailing list implementations. Public inbox is one of these. It calls itself an archives first mailing list implementation. It uses Git as its backing store. So each message that gets sent to the mailing list gets committed to a Git repository as a permanent record of that. It provides access to the messages via quite a few different interfaces. There's a web interface with search capabilities, there's an Atom feed, there's a direct read-only IMAP server, and there's also an NNTP server, if anyone remembers NNTP. It's actually a really useful protocol still in 2021. The public invoice archives are indexed by the message ID, which is a unique identifier generated when an email is sent. And that's going to come important later. So if you want to see any more about public inbox, then you can take a look at their website, their README file. So what about law? Law.kernel.org is a public inbox instance that was originally set up for the Linux kernel community and just hosted Linux kernel mailing lists. This has been expanded to include many other project mailing lists. If you want to look at it, the link is there in this slide. It's law.kernel.org. So a couple of months ago, I found out that various Yocto project mailing lists have now been mirrored on law, with thanks to Konstantin on the kernel.org side and I think Michael Halstead on the Yocto project side for making this happen. So you've got the core open embedded mailing lists, you've got the Yocto mailing list, and you've got a couple of additional mailing lists there that are mirrored on law. And this means we can use tools that are designed to work with these archives on a public inbox mailing list server and its ability to index things by message ID that these tools rely on. And one of these tools is B4. The law and B4 and Vega and some other things you'll see in the kernel.org community are all Star Trek references. But B4 is a tool for downloading and applying patches. So there's a B4 AM, which corresponds to the git am command. What this will do is it will download a series of patches in a format that can be applied using git am. It has various different additional features that I will show off in the demo as well. And this is the thing I'll be focusing on with the demo. There's a couple of other tools in there. One is B4 PR, which is designed for handling pull requests sent via email. So this is when just the cover letter is sent by email. And then there's B4TY, which is just a little helper tool that makes it easier for maintainers to send a thank you message when they've applied patches to their tree. So these tools serve to automate the process of, pulling patches down that have been sent to a mailing list in a format where they can be easily applied to a local repository, running a few checks on them, and giving you a mailbox file that you can feed directly into Git AM. They typically work with patch series as well as individual patches. So you can feed it a cover letter and it will pull down all the patches associated with that. It can also process email replies. So if you look at the sort of tags that get added to commits sometimes to say reviewed by and then someone's name and email address, or tested by and someone's name and email address, it saves the person applying the patches the manual job of copy pasting these things into a commit message. It can find these follow-up tags and apply them to the commit messages itself, and has the ability to search for newer versions of a patch series. If you give it a version 1 of a patch series, it can search and see if there was a version 2 sent as a follow-up. So it's got quite a few powerful tools. What I'm going to do is show a video that I recorded of a demo. As I say, to fit this in 15 minutes, I didn't want to do a live demo and tempt things breaking. So this is a demo with audio. Trevor, jump in if you can't hear the audio, but we did test it before, so it should be okay. This is a short demo of how you can use LAW and B4 when working with the Yocto project. And you can use any email client which can be configured to easily get the message ID of a given email. Now I'm using Thunderbird here. We're going to start by installing a plugin which will make it easier to get the message ID for any email we want to look at. So we're searching for message ID in the Thunderbird add-ons, and this first copy message ID add-on adds a little button to copy the message ID to the clipboard, and that's going to make our lives easier through this demo. So let's install this add-on. And then the next step that we're going to do is set up an NNTP account to read messages from LAW. We can use this for reading the kernel mailing lists, several Yocto mailing lists, and mailing lists from many other projects. So we're going to add an other account, and we add a news group account here in Thunderbird. We need to provide an email address for this that isn't really used in this demo, but we'll add our email address, and then we're going to set the news group server to nntp.law.kernel.org. And we're going to add this account. Now let's reduce the bandwidth used by limiting the downloads to just pull messages that were sent within the last 30 days. And now we're going to go to our new newsgroup account, and we're going to say manage newsgroup subscriptions, and then we're going to search for the newsgroups that we want to subscribe to, which in this case is the open embedded mailing lists. We're going to select the 3 mailing lists here, say OK, and then we will see these mailing lists appear as newsgroups. Now we don't want to download all the headers. By default it's going to try and pull everything from the start of these mailing lists years ago. We don't need that. So I've just told it to download the latest 500 message headers. Now take a moment to download these headers, and then we can have a look at the mailing list. And we're going to look for a patch or a patch series that we can apply in Open Embedded Core. Now this here couple of SPDX fixes is a good example to test. There's a cover email and 2 patches. So we've got it open up here, and we're going to use the copy message ID button that was provided by our add-on to copy the message ID to the clipboard. Now we've got a terminal here. We're in an up-to-date clone of Open Embedded Core from the date that I recorded this demo. And the first thing we're going to do here is install B4 using pip because it's a Python package. So you'll need a recent version of Python 3 for this. It's going to go ahead and download B4 and its dependencies and install things. And when it's installed, we're just going to very quickly confirm that it works by checking the B4 version. Now we can go ahead and pull down the patches using the message ID that we copied earlier. What this is going to do is create a mailbox file which can be used with git-am. So let's copy the git-am command that B4 has helpfully given us, and we're going to run that. And what we see here is a failure for the patch to apply. So this one's pretty simple. We can go ahead, give that feedback on the mailing list to the patch author and tell them to send a new version of the series. So now let's go and look for something else that we can try. And we're just scrolling back through. Here's a good one to try. So this is a 26 patch series from Tim. B4 really helps when dealing with larger patch series like this. So we're going to go to the cover letter and we're going to copy the message ID again. And then back in our terminal, let's run B4am with that message ID that we've just copied. Now we see all 26 patches downloaded and added to a mailbox file, which we can go ahead and pass to git-am. And we see that everything applies. That's pretty good. So we can take a look at the list of what's been applied there. It just shows the one-line versions of the commit messages. And then we can look at the git log and just scroll back and see each of these patches has been applied in order on top of the commit that we previously had checked out. And at this point, we can do whatever testing and review we want and then send some feedback on that patch series to the mailing list. Now, before we finish, I want to show two other features of B4. The first is how easy it is to add your sign-off to all the patches that you apply. This is a common task for maintainers. For this, we're going to use the -s argument to B4. And you can see that sign-off has been added to each patch. That's shown in the B4 output. And then if we run git-am on this series, look at the git log, we also see the sign-off in every commit here. For the last feature that I want to demonstrate, we're going to look at a different set of patches. What I've got selected here is a V6 of a series, and if you look, you'll see a V7 of the series just below this. But what if we missed the V7? What if we thought the V6 was the latest? So we're going to copy the message ID for the version 6 of the patch series. I'm going to go over to our terminal and we're going to use the -c argument B4 to tell it to check for more recent versions of this patch series. So now what B4 is going to do is it's going to look at the mailing list and it's going to find that there was this version 7 series sent after the version 6. So what it's done since we passed this -c argument is download the latest version of that patch series for us. So this saves the potential for accidentally applying or reviewing an old version of a patch series. So that's the end of the demo video. And I just want to really briefly, before we finish up, talk about patch attestation. So along with B4, there's a tool called patatt that is designed to provide easy to use end-to-end attestation for patches sent via email. And by attestation, we mean confirmation that an author has not been impersonated by somebody else. So when pulling from Git repositories, you can use signed commits. But when using email, you lose those signatures on commits. You need something else, and patatt provides that. What it does is it essentially does a hash of the message content and signs that with either a GPG key or a standalone key, and adds those signatures in as additional message headers in a way that does not obstruct the git-am command. Uses a very similar algorithm to DKIM, which is used for signing emails as they pass through mail gateways. And this can be used standalone. The patatt tool is a Python tool you can install, or it can be used with B4 using this B4 attest command. There's loads more I could say about patatt and about B4 and about law. If you are interested in these, I highly recommend taking a look at the links that are here. There is also a recent blog post from Konstantin about doing more with law to provide filtered lists of patches you might be interested in. And there is also a couple of presentations, again from Konstantin, on B4, law, and patatt. So that's where you should go if you want more information. And that's it from me.